Thank you. Hey, this is Frank J. Avella with Awards Daily. Two-time Academy Award winner Ben Affleck is having a banner year with two terrific performances under his belt. Earlier in 2021, in his co-penned medieval drama The Last Duel, directed by Ridley Scott, and now with George Clooney's The Tender Bar, where he plays the charismatic Uncle Charlie. Hi, Ben, and congratulations on the Golden Globe nomination, richly deserved.
Thank you so much. I love that intro. It made me feel so good. I love it. I should do this show more often.
Well, I think it's one of the best acting roles of your career. I really do.
Thank you. I find that the more I've worked and in concert with the more life experience that I've had and the more relaxed I get and the more clear about myself and my life and the more interesting roles that I get to play, which does come with getting older. I'm more and more comfortable acting and I like it more and I'm more interested in it. So, I just knock wood that it doesn't go away because I'm really enjoying it.
Well, everybody should have an Uncle Charlie. I had an Uncle Pete, but he came and went. Was he someone you felt you knew? And can you share the kind of backstory you had for him?
Sure. Well, a lot of it was, detailed in the novels. It was pretty clear about who he was, what the kind of neighborhood he was from, what his history was. This is a working guy who was a bartender, who was a self-taught person, kind of a reverse class snob, anti-elitist, we say now. And he, in that way, was not unlike a lot of aspects of my own father. And like my dad, he really valued, storytelling, the written word, language, great writing, and my father imparted that on me, and it was really interesting to play almost the same thing with conveying that to the JR character in the movie, and this character was, to me, felt complex and flawed, but beautiful and loving. And I thought it was a really lovely model, a true model of somebody who isn't glossed over, whose kind of cracks aren't artificially filled in for audiences, but really was a good man, a good person, and a good parent in effect. And I feel like that's a much more honest representation in a lot of ways of who all of us are, because nobody feels like they're perfect or gets it right or has realized all their dreams or hasn't had disappointments or and this character is so honest about it and so real, and yet still is able to maintain not only his own sense of integrity and goodness, pass that on to this young man, but also doesn't hold himself low in any way, because he's also mindful of the things that he feels esteem about. And I find that kind of beautiful, that ability to see the grace in oneself and to pass that on to a young person. I think that's the defining challenge in the life of a parent, certainly is in mine.
Well, one of the lovely things is there's this wonderful feeling between you, Lily, and both actors who play JR, that you love one another so much, despite some of the problems that all families have. And that really draws us in. Did you guys have a rehearsal process to prep for that?
A little bit, but really the truth of the matter is Lily is so good. She is such a good actress. I mean, I knew she was good. I didn't know she was that good. And she's that actor where if you find yourself sort of adrift, in the ocean of the scene and disoriented, she is that kind of that buoy, that life raft that you can just go, okay, let's swim in this direction. And she's a lodestar or something where you can always find your way by following her through the scene. And I don't know where she got that ability, but I'm really grateful. And between her and Daniel and Ty, who both are uniquely talented in their own regard, and George's his generosity, his willingness to share his history and expertise and talent with me in a real way, so that I was able to take advantage of it and avail myself of it and turn in a performance I otherwise wouldn't have. Oftentimes because he was so observant and wise about what choices to make, rather than nobody's going to tell you how to create a genuine feeling, but they can tell you how to play a scene more effectively. And George is so good at that. So it's a collaborative art form, like it or not. I know we get into, praising individuals and looking at individuals in silos, but the truth is, you sort of sink or swim together.
Well, this is a great year for you, performance-wise. Two stunners. The Last Duel, amazing film. You got to play Count Pierre, most enjoyable character in the film. Was that decided during the writing process? I'm curious.
Yeah, once it became clear that I wasn't Ridley's schedule and mine were not gonna meet up in terms of, because originally Matt and I were gonna play the two knights. There were the two squires, one of whom becomes a knight, and then there were two things that sort of happened simultaneously. One, we got concerned with the sort of, is it too kitschy? Is it too distracting? Like me versus him, fight to the death. The sort of whole. Sometimes it's hard to be mindful of the baggage that you carry in the eyes of audiences, but there was definitely a sort of, like, this will be a whole like Matt versus Ben hook, and that would undermine the effectiveness of the story, I think, and also, frankly, practically, Ridley was ready to go, and I wasn't going to be finished with another movie, so I kind of expanded, and we made more rich the Pierre part, which was really good for the movie because, you have to have, like, movies can't have villains in the sense that nobody ever is the villain of their own story, and you have to find. I thought it was a really challenging thing to find enough humanity to identify with this character enough to make him genuinely be appealing to Adam's character, so that Adam is really, because part of the story is about the values that we have largely being informed by how we're acculturated, our social norms, how we're, what are the values that we're taught in society, and are seeing the world through the prism of our own needs. He had to have been taught, Adam's character, by me, this way of reproaching and regarding women, so that in effect he was not able to see really Jodie's character. And Jodie's so phenomenal in the movie, and Adam was great. But by playing that character, I realized the only way that this guy can have an appeal if his life appears to be fun, if he appears to be joyous. That, and oftentimes I think like bad behavior is often encouraged in groups or cultivated by people who make it seem cool or fun or funny. Even though it so obviously isn't on the face. But there are people who can, unfortunately make that kind of thing seem that way. I knew that was a challenge, but I really relished it because I thought, well, this would be a great thing to be able to pull off. And as such, because I did feel great about the performance, I was disappointed that the movie did no money at the box office, but I wasn't disappointed in the movie. And I was interested and pleased to see, okay, so it works on streaming, and probably indicates that that's the direction that the kind of movies I want to make are going to take. Just kind of come to terms with the fact that that's where they're going.
And it's going to live on. My final question to you, Ben, at 25, you won an Oscar. Now here, you're almost 25 years later, again in the awards conversation. So you have proven to have some kind of longevity in an industry that likes to create and destroy. How do you navigate all of this? How are you doing it?
Interestingly, I navigate my life, and I don't know, this will work for everybody, but it works for me, by being really clear about what priorities are, which is my kids and family, my work, and personal, satisfying, loving relationships, and making choices based on those criteria, and also, paradoxically, given the title of your program, by not making the focus of what I'm doing the need to get outside approval. Like, I'm not going to succeed or fail based on any criterion other than my own. But that means I have to be really rigorous with myself and honest about whether or not I'm doing that. It's no good to just tell yourself you're great despite what everyone else thinks. You have to actually be real with yourself. And there are people around me who I really trust and admire, and whose advice and feedback I've really benefited from. And I have made it about that, and I find myself much happier. And admittedly, I don't get immersed in the politics or the goings on or the horse race of it all, because this is not good for me. To chase that can actually corrupt the intention of what you're doing. And it turns out it's nice, it's great. Everybody loves to be acknowledged, certainly actors, but it doesn't make you happy.
Bravo. Okay. Bravo, Ben. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Really appreciate it. And again, fantastic performance.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.